The forests of Ohio hold more than just the whispers of the wind and the rustling of leaves. They hold secrets, they hold legends, and they hold restless spirits that never found peace. As the sun fades behind the trees and the shadows stretch long across the forest floor, something strange begins to awaken. The woods breathe, the air grows heavy, and if you listen closely, you might hear a faint voice calling your name. Tonight, we are going deep into the heart of darkness, exploring 10 of the most haunted forests in Ohio, where screams echo through the trees and footsteps follow you even when you stand still. They say the night in these forests never truly ends because something waits in the dark, something old, something watching. From the tangled roots of ancient oaks to the moss-covered stones of forgotten paths, these places have stories, and none of them end well. Here, every rustle could be more than just the wind. Every flicker of movement in the corner of your eye might not be your imagination, and every step deeper into the woods could be your last one out. People have gone missing here. Some have been found days later with no memory of where they've been. Others were never seen again. Local hunters speak of glowing eyes in the dark. Not animals, not human either. Hikers talk about being followed by shadows, about strange laughter echoing through the trees, and about a feeling so strong it freezes the blood in their veins. The sense that something is standing just behind them, breathing on their necks, waiting for them to turn around. Ohio's forests are older than most towns, soaked in history, in tragedy, and in the echoes of the past. These woods have seen war, death, rituals, and despair, and some say that the land remembers everything. The ground soaks up every drop of sorrow, every tear, every drop of blood, and when the moon rises, it all comes back. The forest whispers the stories of those who died here, drawing in the living to hear them again, to live them again, until the forest decides it's time to keep another soul. Tonight, we are stepping off the beaten path into the places where the brave don't stay long and the foolish never return. From cursed caves that hum with energy to ghostly trails that twist themselves into endless loops, from spectral lights that float between the trees to figures that vanish when you blink. Every forest has its own secret, its own curse, and its own ghost waiting to be found. So dim the lights, close your doors, and keep your eyes open, because in these woods the shadows have voices, and they are calling for you. Welcome to Ohio's most haunted forests, where legends never die, and neither do the ghosts that guard them. Haunted Forest Number 1. Hocking Hills. Forest, Logan, Ohio. Deep in the heart of Ohio lies a forest that seems to breathe with its own life, a place where the line between the living and the dead fades beneath the canopy of ancient trees. Hocking Hills. Forest is beautiful by day, its waterfalls sparkling like glass, and the cliffs echoing with the sound of birds. But when the sun sinks and the mist begins to rise, something else stirs, something unseen yet deeply felt. The forest grows colder, quieter, and the air thickens with an energy that feels alive, watching, waiting. Locals say that Hocking Hills is cursed by the spirits of those who came before. Native American tribes once walked these paths, their sacred grounds hidden beneath what tourists now tread. They say that rituals once took place here under the full moon, rituals meant to protect the land, but something went wrong. The spirits they summoned never left. They linger still, whispering through the trees and reaching out to anyone who dares to wander too deep. Hikers tell of strange shapes moving in the fog, of footsteps following them even when the trail is empty, and of whispers that call their names softly, like the voice of someone they know. There are stories of ghostly figures that appear near Old Man's Cave, the most famous part of Hocking Hills. People see a tall shadow standing at the entrance, motionless, staring, then disappearing as they get closer. Others have seen pale faces reflected in the still water beneath the cliffs, faces that vanish the moment they blink. Campers report waking up in the middle of the night to hear crying in the woods. Sometimes it's the sound of a woman weeping. Other times, it's laughter, high and hollow, drifting between the trees until it fades into silence. And then comes the heavy sound of something walking in circles around their tents. The legend of the lost traveler is one of the most chilling. Years ago, a man went hiking through Hocking Hills and never came back. Search parties looked for weeks. They found his backpack, his phone, even his clothes neatly folded near a waterfall, but never his body. People say that if you go there at night and listen closely, you can hear his voice echoing through the gorge, calling for help over and over again. Some say they've seen him too, wandering along the path with an empty stare, his clothes torn, his mouth open as if trying to speak. But when they approach, he fades into the fog. There's also the story of the old miner who worked in a hidden shaft near the caves long before the area became a park. He died in a collapse, buried alive under the rocks, and his spirit never found peace. His ghost has been seen carrying a dim lantern, flickering through the dark, sometimes near the trails, sometimes deep in the woods where no one should be. Those who follow the light say it leads them in circles, back to the same spot, until the lantern disappears, and they realize they've been walking for hours without direction, trapped in the forest's maze. Even the animals act strange here. Dogs refuse to enter certain paths, birds go silent without warning, and cameras often fail to capture anything beyond the fog. The forest plays tricks on the mind. People lose time, lose sense of direction, and some swear the trees move when no one is looking, rearranging themselves, closing the way back, as if the forest itself is alive, guarding something or keeping something in. Visitors who stay after sunset describe the same sensation, that they are not alone, that the forest is aware of them, watching from every shadow, breathing down their necks. And sometimes, just before they leave, they feel a cold hand brush against their shoulder, only to find no one there. Hocking Hills is not just a forest, it's a graveyard of forgotten souls, a place where nature and spirit have become one, where echoes of the past still wander between the stones and trees, forever searching, forever haunting. Those who visit during the day see beauty, but those who stay after dark, they see the truth. Hocking Hills Forest is alive, but not in the way you think. It watches, it whispers, and if you stay too long, it remembers you, and it never lets you go. Number 2. Mohican State Forest, Loudonville, Ohio. There are forests that hum softly with life, where the wind through the trees sounds peaceful and kind. But Mohican State Forest is not one of those places. This forest whispers. But what it whispers is not peace. It is warning. It is sorrow. It is the sound of something ancient and restless, moving between the shadows. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes, until all that remains is the rustling of the leaves and the sound of your own breath, echoing back like a heartbeat beneath the soil. Long before this forest became a park, this land was said to be a burial ground for native tribes, a place where the dead were honored, their spirits left to roam free among the trees. But when settlers came, they disturbed the ground, cutting into sacred soil and building through what was once hallowed. Ever since then, strange things have happened. The trees seem to hum at night, and the air carries a chill that no fire can chase away. People who have camped here tell stories of seeing pale shapes moving between the trunks, slow and silent, sometimes close enough to touch, but gone the moment they blink. Hikers often report feeling watched, not in the way of animals, but something deeper, older, as if the forest itself has eyes. Sometimes they hear footsteps behind them, matching their pace, stopping when they stop, starting again when they move, and when they turn around, there is nothing there, only the mist curling low across the ground, and the faint smell of smoke from fires that no longer burn. Some hear laughter, faint and far away. Others hear crying. A woman's voice, soft and broken, calling out for someone named Thomas. And when you call back, the forest grows still, as if holding its breath. There is a part of Mohican known by locals as the Devil's Den, a hollow so deep that sunlight rarely reaches the bottom. Legend says that those who enter the den alone are never quite the same when they come back. Their eyes hollow, their voices quiet. They speak of a figure standing at the far end of the hollow, tall and dark, its head bent low, its breath cold as ice. One man who wandered there at dusk said he saw lights floating above the ground, like lanterns carried by invisible hands. They circled him for minutes, then vanished all at once, leaving him in total darkness. He ran until his legs gave out, and when he looked back, there were handprints in the dirt behind him, large, burned into the soil. Campers have woken to find strange symbols drawn in the dirt around their tents, circles and triangles, patterns that no one admits to making. One woman said she found her shoes placed neatly outside her tent in the morning, though she swore she wore them to sleep. Others hear chanting, soft and rhythmic, coming from the direction of the old trails that no longer appear on any map. The sound fades when approached, as if the forest itself swallows it whole, but at times, when the wind blows just right, it comes back again, faint and haunting, like a memory that refuses to die. The Mohican River that winds through the forest seems calm, but beneath its surface are stories of people who were pulled under by unseen hands. The water cold, the current weak, yet something below tugged them down, and when they emerged, gasping, they swore they saw faces in the water, pale and empty, staring up from the depths before vanishing into the current. Some say those are the souls of the lost. Others believe it's the forest reclaiming what was once its own. Even rangers who work there admit to strange experiences, radios picking up static when no one is talking, voices breaking through the silence only to disappear, shadows that move against the light. One ranger told of a night when he followed a sound of crying deep into the woods, thinking it was a lost child. But when he found the source, it was an old wooden doll, sitting on a rock, its mouth carved open, and the crying stopped the moment he touched it. When he turned to leave, he heard footsteps running behind him, but saw nothing when he turned around. Many visitors speak of the forest's energy. Some say it feels heavy, pressing down on your chest like a weight. Others say it feels electric, as if every step charges the ground beneath your feet. But all agree that it feels alive, too alive, like it remembers every footstep, every whisper, every secret spoken in fear. There are places in Mohican where even animals will not go, where no birds sing, where the silence itself feels wrong, and those who walk those paths alone never forget it. The forest clings to them, its presence following them home, in their dreams, in the corners of dark rooms, in the creak of branches outside their window at night. Mohican State Forest is beautiful, yes, but beauty can be deceiving. What grows here is not just nature, but memory, ancient and unrelenting, the kind that reaches out from the earth and takes hold of those who listen too closely, The forest waits, patient and hungry, and once you step beneath its canopy, you become part of its story, another whisper in its endless echo. Number 3. Cuyahoga Valley National Park Woods, Peninsula, Ohio. There are forests that breathe softly, that carry the scent of rain and moss, that hum gently with life. But the woods of Cuyahoga Valley hold a silence that feels wrong. It is not the quiet of peace, but the quiet of something unseen, listening back. The trees here grow close together. Their branches twist above you like ribs. Their roots curl beneath the earth like hands holding secrets. And when the wind passes through, it does not whistle. It sighs, long and tired, as if it remembers too much. The people who come here often talk about the strange feeling that settles the moment they step inside, a weight that presses against their chest, a sense of being followed, of being studied, as though the forest itself leans closer to hear your breath. Locals whisper that these woods were once the hiding place of those who vanished, people who disappeared during the canal days, travelers who lost their way between towns, and escaped souls who never made it out. The valley was their final stop, and their whispers still live in the fog that rolls across the forest floor each dawn. There are trails in Cuyahoga that seem to shift, paths that look familiar but lead somewhere new. Hikers swear that when they turn back, the way they came is gone, swallowed by shadows and mist. One man told of walking for hours only to find himself circling the same clearing, his footprints still fresh in the dirt. Another woman said she heard her own voice calling her name from deeper in the trees, soft and distant, repeating it again and again, until she ran, too afraid to look back and see what was following her. The old canal that cuts through the park is said to be cursed. Workers once drowned in its dark waters during its construction, their cries echoing beneath the bridges, and even today, visitors hear splashes where no fish swim. The water calm one second and rippling violently the next. Boaters sometimes report seeing pale faces beneath the surface, staring upward before fading into the depths, and when they try to touch the water, the temperature drops, so cold it burns their skin. Not far from the canal stands a small abandoned cabin, half sunk into the ground, the wood black with rot. Locals call it the Hunter's Rest, but no one remembers who the hunter was, only that he was found, one winter, hanging from the rafters, his boots frozen to the floor. Some say he still roams the woods, carrying a lantern that swings through the trees late at night. When the fog is thickest, campers have seen the glow of that light, drifting between the pines, slow, steady, stopping when they move, vanishing when they call out. Some claim it has followed them all the way back to their cars, and when they looked behind them, the forest was empty, the light gone, but the sound of boots crunching leaves continued for a while longer. Rangers speak in low voices about the sound that comes from the heart of the woods at midnight, a low hum that vibrates through the ground, deep and steady, like a drumbeat beneath the soil. No one has found where it comes from, and no machine has ever picked it up. But those who have heard it say it feels alive, like the forest itself has a heartbeat, and when it stops, the silence that follows feels worse, too still, too final, as if the earth is waiting for something to happen. Some of the oldest residents believe the forest is alive because of what lies beneath it. They say that long before the park was formed, there was a village here, hidden in the trees, a place where people practiced old rituals, giving offerings to the woods in exchange for safety. And when they left or died out, the forest kept their offerings, their bones, their words, and their fear. Even today, people find strange carvings on tree trunks, symbols that were never there before, spirals and eyes and claw marks that look too deep to be made by any knife. When photographed, they vanish from the image, but when you go back, the marks are deeper. At night, mist crawls through the woods, thick and white, carrying faint shapes that move just beyond sight. Sometimes they look like people, other times like something crawling on all fours. If you listen closely, you can hear footsteps moving beside you. Never ahead, never behind, always just at the edge, matching your own. One wrong step, and it feels as if the ground beneath you might open, pulling you down into something cold and endless, where whispers replace the wind. The Cuyahoga Valley woods are not haunted in the usual sense. They are not a place of sudden screams or flickering ghosts. They are haunted in silence, in patience, in the way they wait for you to let your guard down, for you to listen too long, to wander too deep. And once you do, they take something from you, something small, invisible, a part of your mind, a sliver of your calm. And when you leave, you never feel whole again. You carry the weight of the forest in your dreams, in the sound of leaves brushing your window, in the chill that wakes you at 3 a.m. when the night feels too still. So if you ever find yourself walking through the woods of Cuyahoga Valley, and the air grows colder, and the wind falls silent, and you hear your name whispered softly from somewhere behind you, do not answer. Do not turn. Keep walking and never look back, because if you do, you might see what the forest truly holds, and once you see it, it never lets you forget. Number 4. Wayne National Forest, Athens County, Ohio. Deep in the rolling hills of Athens County lies a forest that breathes differently, a place where the trees seem to lean inward, listening, whispering to one another when no one is near. This is Wayne National Forest, a vast stretch of land that covers valleys and shadows, winding trails and forgotten graves. It is Ohio's largest forest, but its beauty hides something darker, something that has frightened wanderers and locals for generations. Long before the forest was claimed and named, this land was said to be sacred to the people who first walked it. They spoke of spirits that lived in the trees, of watchers that guarded the hills. Not all kind, not all cruel, just ancient and restless. When settlers came, they did not listen. They cut down trees, dug into the hills, and built homes where they were not meant to stay. The forest never forgot that. And to this day, people say it takes back what belongs to it. Travelers who enter Wayne National Forest at night often describe the same thing. The sound of footsteps behind them, soft at first, then louder, matching their own. When they stop, it stops. When they turn, there is nothing, only darkness and the faint scent of damp earth. Some hear whispers, not words, just breath and rhythm, like someone murmuring prayers through the leaves. And then a sudden chill, heavy and sharp, as if the air itself has turned against them. The most feared part of the forest lies near the old mining trails, where tunnels run beneath the ground, like veins. Miners once worked there, and many never came back. Explosions, collapses, suffocation. The forest kept their bones, and some say their spirits still climb toward the surface. Trying to find the light, campers have reported hearing the sound of metal striking rock deep below their tents, the clang of picks echoing through the soil, though there are no mines open anymore. Sometimes, if you listen long enough, you can hear faint coughing, then silence. And if you stand too close to the ground, you feel the faintest vibration, like someone digging just beneath your feet. There are also tales of a phantom fire that burns in the heart of the woods, a glow seen from miles away, orange and pulsing, flickering between the trees. But when hikers follow it, they find nothing, just ashes on the ground that are still warm to the touch. No smoke, no footprints, only the strange mark of something that burns without fuel. One ranger once said he saw figures dancing within the light, shadows of people with hollow eyes, circling something unseen. When he blinked, the fire was gone, and so were they. But the smell of burning flesh lingered for days. Locals tell stories of the crying lady of Wayne Forest, a woman said to wander the trails near the Hawking River, dressed in white, her hair tangled, her voice carrying through the fog. She calls for her children, lost long ago in a flood that swallowed an entire camp. People who hear her crying say it sounds so human, so real, that it pulls them off the trail, deeper into the woods. And once they lose sight of the path, they see her, standing at the edge of the water, her face pale, her eyes empty. And when they blink, she is gone, replaced by the reflection of their own frightened face, staring back from the dark surface. Many believe the forest holds something older than any ghost, something ancient and hungry, a presence that lives in the soil, that feeds on fear and loneliness. There have been reports of strange animal behavior, deer that stand motionless for hours, staring into the distance, birds that refuse to sing, dogs that howl until they bleed from their throats, and trees marked with deep claw-like grooves that never heal. Rangers have taken photos of these marks, and within days, the pictures vanish from their phones, erased, as if the forest itself wiped them away. Those who camp overnight in Wayne National Forest speak of a strange hour between 3 and 4 in the morning, when everything goes silent. No insects, no wind, no sound at all. And then, faintly, from somewhere in the distance, comes a low hum, like a deep moan, vibrating through the trees. Those who stay awake long enough to hear it say their vision blurs, their minds cloud, and for a few seconds, they feel as though they are standing somewhere else, a place with no light, no stars, no sky, just endless black and whispers circling them from every direction. When they wake, it is dawn, and their fire has gone cold. Some even claim the forest moves, that landmarks vanish overnight, that trails change direction. One man mapped a route for a hiking group and returned 2 days later to find the same area twisted and unfamiliar, the trees denser, the path gone, replaced by untouched ground. It was as though the forest had swallowed it whole. He never went back, and to this day, no one can find the route he marked. The map itself faded, the ink eaten away. Wayne National Forest is not loud in its haunting. It does not scream or chase. It waits, patient and deliberate. It listens. It learns who you are. It draws you in with its beauty, with its promise of peace and nature. And then, when you least expect it, it shows its true face, the dark side of the earth, where every whisper carries a warning, where every shadow hides something watching. The forest is alive, and those who have entered it at night often leave with the same haunted eyes, the same quiet voice, saying the same thing. The forest knows you, and it never forgets. If you ever find yourself walking through Wayne National Forest, and you feel the ground vibrate beneath your feet, or hear a woman weeping somewhere just beyond the trees, do not follow, do not listen, and never, ever call back. Because if you do, you might not leave the forest as yourself. You might leave as part of it, another whisper in its endless dark. Number 5. Beaver Creek State Forest, East Liverpool, Ohio. There is a strange quiet that settles over Beaver Creek State Forest once the sun dips behind the hills, a quiet that feels almost too deep, too heavy, as though the air itself is holding its breath, waiting. This forest lies in the shadows of East Liverpool, spread across rolling valleys, steep ridges, and a winding river that reflects the moon like a blade. It is a place of beauty during the day, But when night comes, that beauty twists into something darker, something that moves behind the trees and whispers through the fog that rolls down from the hills. Beaver Creek has always had stories, stories of people who vanished without a sound, stories of figures seen drifting between the trees, stories of footsteps following travelers long after they should have been alone. The most well-known tale begins with the old stagecoach road that still cuts through part of the forest, a road that once carried traders, settlers, and weary travelers through Ohio's wilderness. But one night, a stagecoach carrying a family was ambushed, their belongings scattered, their horses found days later. But the family was never seen again. Since then, travelers who walk that trail after dark have sworn they can still hear the clatter of wooden wheels, the snort of invisible horses, and sometimes faint cries of a woman calling for help before everything falls silent again. Those who live near the forest tell of the White Lady of Beaver Creek, a spirit who appears along the old road, dressed in a tattered gown, her face hidden by her long dark hair. She is said to wander aimlessly, weeping softly. Sometimes she approaches cars parked near the forest edge, her pale hand pressing against the window, leaving a cold mark that does not fade until sunrise. Drivers who have seen her say she vanishes the moment their headlights blink or when they speak her name, as if she exists only between breaths, caught between the living world and whatever waits beyond. Then there is the legend of the lost settler, a man who tried to build a cabin deep in the forest over a century ago. He was a hunter, stubborn and proud, and when locals warned him not to stay past sundown, he laughed. He believed in nothing but his own strength. Weeks passed and no one saw him again. When a search party finally went to find him, they found his cabin burned to the ground, his tools melted, his footprints leading in circles through the ash, ending at a tree that had claw marks dug into its bark, deep and wide. No animal in the region could have done that. Since then, campers have reported hearing chopping sounds echoing through the forest at night, though no one is there. And sometimes they find a single tree, marked with the same strange scratches, fresh and wet with sap, as if something is still carving its story. The forest is also known for its strange mists, a fog that rises too quickly, too thick. It rolls in even when the night is clear, swallowing light and sound alike. Many who have been caught in it claim they see shapes moving through it, tall and human, but too still, too deliberate. One man who was hiking near the creek said he saw lanterns floating in the mist, 3 of them, moving slowly toward him, thinking it was other hikers. He called out, but the lanterns froze. Then, all 3 lights flickered out at once. He ran, and when he turned back, he saw faint outlines of people standing by the water, unmoving, their faces gray and hollow. Locals whisper about an unmarked graveyard somewhere deep in Beaver Creek Forest, where settlers buried their dead when disease swept through the valley. The graves were shallow, unmarked, and over the years the forest grew over them, erasing every trace. But sometimes, after heavy rain, people claim to find bones unearthed along the riverbank, small and white, washed clean by time. Some say they belong to the settlers. Others say they belong to those who wandered too far into the forest and never came back. Those bones never stay long. They vanish after a few days, as if something takes them back underground. There is a bridge near the center of the forest that many call the Screaming Bridge, not because of what happens upon it, but what happens beneath. People say that if you walk across it after midnight, you will hear a scream rise from under the planks, long and sharp, fading into the water below. Some say it is the spirit of a young woman who threw herself into the creek after her lover was killed during the Civil War. Others say it is older, something that has always been there. something that uses that voice to draw people closer. A few brave souls have tried to look under the bridge when they heard it, and each one says the same thing, that the water was still, black as glass, but they felt eyes looking up at them from below the surface. The deeper you go into Beaver Creek State Forest, the less the world feels normal. Sounds bend, shadows stretch, and sometimes you find things that should not exist, like circles of stones arranged perfectly in the dirt, or trees with branches woven together like cages. And if you walk at the wrong hour, around 3 in the morning, you might hear laughter, faint and distant, the kind that sounds like children. But the forest has no children, only echoes. One ranger said. He followed that sound once, and what he found was a clearing filled with small wooden carvings hanging from branches, hundreds of them, swinging silently in the wind, each shaped like a tiny figure, their faces carved in terror. And as he watched, one of them turned on its string, slowly, until it faced him. Beaver Creek State Forest is not loud with its hauntings. It does not chase you or show its hand all at once. It creeps, it waits, it learns. It knows when you are afraid, and it feeds on that fear. The forest has grown thick with stories, too many to count, too many to dismiss, and every person who has dared to enter at night speaks of one thing above all: the feeling of being watched, of not being alone, of walking through a place that remembers every scream, every tear, every soul that has ever wandered too deep. Beaver Creek is beautiful, yes, but it is the kind of beauty that hides teeth. And once you see those teeth, it is already too late to turn back. Number 6. Helltown Forest, Summit County, Ohio. There are places that seem cursed from the beginning, places where every tree feels wrong and every sound carries a secret. Helltown Forest in Summit County, Ohio is one of those places. It is quiet during the day, peaceful even, the kind of forest where sunlight breaks through the leaves like scattered gold. But when night falls, the entire world changes. The air thickens, the trees seem to close in, and shadows move where no light should make them move. This is not a normal forest. It is a place built on layers of loss, tragedy, and whispers of things not meant for human eyes. Helltown is not an official name. It was given by locals, passed down through decades of stories, a mix of truth, fear, and mystery. The town near the forest was once full of life, homes, families, and farms. But in the 1970s, the government suddenly ordered everyone to leave. Entire streets were emptied, doors were nailed shut, cars were abandoned, and people vanished. No one knew why. Some said it was to build a national park. Others whispered that there had been a toxic spill or a secret experiment gone wrong. But the people who left spoke of strange figures that appeared near their homes, of government men who warned them not to look outside at night, and of screams that echoed from the forest long before the evacuation began. Now, the forest has swallowed the ruins. The roads that once led into town fade into dirt and roots, and if you walk far enough, you find old houses standing half buried in the earth, windows shattered, doors open like mouths. The air inside them feels heavy, stale, but alive somehow. Many who enter these houses report the same thing, the feeling of being watched, of hearing footsteps on the floor above them, even when the roof is gone. One man once said he went into one of the houses to take pictures, and when he developed the film, a face appeared in every frame, pale, smiling, and always behind him. There is an old church deep inside Helltown Forest. It sits alone on a hill, its paint long gone, its cross tilted to one side. Legend says that the church was used by a cult, one that worshipped something dark, something that lived beneath the forest. People claim to see candles burning in its windows, even when there is no one around. Others say they have seen hooded figures standing at the edge of the forest, staring at the road, unmoving, silent. The strangest thing is that their shadows never seem to match the light, as if the forest itself bends around them. The cemetery near the forest is another story. It lies just past the broken bridge, and at night, fog rolls in, thick and gray, covering the graves like a blanket. Visitors who walk among the stones say they can hear whispers in the fog. Some say it is the wind. Others say it is the voices of those who were buried without peace. One legend tells of a man who hanged himself on a tree near the graveyard after losing his family. They say if you park under that tree and turn off your lights, you will see a shadow drop from the branches, swinging slowly, then disappearing before your eyes. People who have tried it claim to hear the sound of rope tightening around their necks when they drive away. There is also the bus, the one that sits rusting in the forest, half covered by vines. No one knows where it came from or who left it there, but everyone knows the story. They say it once carried a group of children who were attacked while passing through the forest. No one survived. Now, if you walk past the bus at night, you can hear soft laughter, and if you look through the windows, you might see tiny handprints on the glass, too high to belong to anything still alive. Some say the bus glows faintly, others say it shakes, as if something inside is still trying to get out. But the most terrifying part of Helltown Forest is the scream, the one that comes from deep within the woods long after midnight. It starts low, like a distant cry, then grows into a high, shrill wail that cuts through the trees. No one knows what makes it. Some say it is the echo of something human. Others believe it belongs to the creature said to roam the forest, a twisted figure with glowing eyes, tall as a man but moving like an animal. Those who have seen it say it walks on two legs, but bends forward as if its back is broken, its breath hot, its voice like the sound of wind tearing through glass. People who hear it never forget, because it follows them home, whispering their names in the dark for nights afterward. The forest roads are dangerous, sharp turns, sudden dead ends, and signs that lead nowhere. Many drivers have gone missing. Their cars found days later, doors open, engines still warm, but no trace of them. There is a stretch of road called the End of the World, a steep hill that drops suddenly into the forest. Legend says that if you drive to the edge and turn off your headlights, you will see something rise from the trees, something tall, white, and shifting. And if you look away, your car will not start again until the figure is gone. Some say that figure guards the forest, keeping people from leaving once they have entered. Even the animals in Helltown Forest behave strangely. Deer with eyes that glow too bright, birds that sing only at night, dogs that refuse to enter the woods and howl until their owners drag them away. Rangers who have patrolled the area talk about sudden drops in temperature, about radios that die the moment they cross the boundary, about the feeling that something is following just behind them, matching every step, sometimes leaving footprints beside theirs in the mud, prints that look human, but too long, too wide, and ending in points like claws. The deeper you walk into Helltown Forest, the more reality begins to fade. The air thickens, the night grows heavy, and even your own heartbeat begins to sound wrong, slower, louder. And when you finally turn to leave, it feels like the forest itself resists you, like it wants you to stay. Some say the spirits there feed on fear, on memories, on the warmth of the living. They do not want visitors, they want residents, trapped souls, forever walking among the trees. People who have gone there and lived to tell about it never go back. They say it feels like walking through a doorway that does not close behind you, like once you have entered, a part of you stays there, wandering under the endless canopy of trees, listening to the whispers that rise with the wind. Helltown Forest is not just haunted, it is alive, and it remembers every single person who has dared to step inside. Number 7. Zaleski State Forest, Vinton County, Ohio. There are forests that seem to breathe with the weight of history. And then there is Zaleski State Forest, a place where the air feels older than time itself, where the silence is so deep that it feels alive, pressing against your ears, whispering just beneath the edge of hearing. People say that the forest here is haunted by more than just the past. They say it is haunted by the land itself, by the spirits that lived and died long before Ohio was ever mapped, long before names and fences and roads, when this was still wild country, full of shadows and secrets that refused to stay buried. The first thing you notice when you enter Zaleski State Forest is the quiet. It is not the peaceful kind of quiet that makes you feel calm. It is the kind that makes your heart beat too loudly, the kind that makes every twig snap sound like a warning, and every rustle feel like a breath on the back of your neck. There are stories that say this forest was once a burial ground, a place where ancient tribes laid their dead among the trees. Some say the mounds hidden deep within are not just earth and stone, but gateways, openings that connect this world to another, and that the spirits who guard them never left. They walk the forest trails at night, their shapes faint, their eyes pale and glowing, their voices drifting like mist between the trees. Hikers have often spoken of strange lights that appear in the woods after sunset, floating orbs that move too smoothly, too silently to be human, sometimes red, sometimes blue, sometimes pure white. Like cold fire, they weave between the trunks, flicker, and vanish when approached. A few people have followed them, only to find themselves lost, walking in circles for hours until dawn. Even with GPS devices and compasses, something always goes wrong. The forest plays tricks on those who dare to follow its lights, like it does not want to be understood, only feared. Near the heart of Zaleski is an old logging trail, abandoned decades ago, but still faintly visible under the leaves. Locals say a group of workers once died there in a freak accident, trapped under falling trees, crushed before they could escape. On some nights when the fog rolls through the valleys, you can hear the echo of axes striking wood, the distant creak of falling branches, and the cries of men calling for help that never came. Some hikers claim they have seen figures in work clothes, faces gray and eyes hollow, standing among the trees, vanishing the moment they are looked at directly. One man swore he saw a ghostly handprint appear on the window of his car as he tried to drive away, still visible in the morning, smudged but real. The forest also hides a small cemetery, nearly swallowed by vines and moss, with stones so old that the names have faded away. The earth around them feels soft, too soft like it still moves. Some visitors say they hear crying there, soft, childlike sobs that come from nowhere. Others have heard singing, low and sorrowful, drifting through the air even when the wind is still. No one knows who the voices belong to, but the sound is always followed by cold air, as if something unseen is walking past. Then there is the legend of the Witch of Zaleski, a woman who, according to the oldest tales, was cast out of her village for practicing dark magic. She fled into the forest, living alone for years. They say she cursed the land before she died, vowing that anyone who disturbed her resting place would lose their way forever. People who have camped deep in the forest tell of waking up in different spots from where they fell asleep. Tents moved, fires cold, footprints all around them. Some say the witch still walks beneath the trees, her long hair dragging behind her, her eyes hollow, her whisper carried on the wind like a warning. Others say that she appears to those who disrespect the forest, smiling before the air turns cold and the world goes dark. There is also a pond, hidden near the edge of the forest, black as glass, untouched by sunlight. They call it the Mirror Pond. And legend says, if you stare into it long enough, you will see your reflection move on its own. Smile when you do not. Blink when your eyes are still. A few brave souls have tested this story, and most leave quickly, shaken and pale. But one boy who tried it was never seen again. They found his shoes by the water, and nothing else. Now people say that when the moon is high, you can see a hand break the surface, reaching out, pulling something invisible back under. Even the animals seem different here. Deer that do not run when you approach, just stand and stare, eyes too bright. Owls that circle overhead but make no sound, and wolves that appear where no wolves should be, their eyes reflecting red like burning coals. There are hunters who have gone into Zaleski and come out changed, quiet, withdrawn, eyes hollow. One man said he heard his dead brother calling to him from the trees, and followed the voice until he realized it was not a man speaking, but something else, something that wanted him to keep walking, deeper and deeper, until there was no turning back. At night, the forest breathes. The fog rises from the ground and twists like fingers. Every shadow stretches too far, every sound feels too close, and the air grows heavy, as if the forest itself is pressing against your chest. People who have spent the night here say they feel watched, followed, their names whispered from behind the trees. But when they turn around, there is nothing, only the endless dark. The forest does not chase you. It waits patient, knowing that eventually you will turn the wrong way, take the wrong step, and it will have you. Zaleski State Forest is beautiful by day, breathtaking even, full of life and light and quiet trails. But beneath that beauty, there is something else, something ancient and awake, something that remembers every sound, every step, every frightened breath. It is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, where the air is filled with whispers of things that were never meant to be heard. And once you have been there, once you have heard the forest speak, you will never forget it. And the forest will never forget you. Number 8. Salt Fork State Park. Woods, Guernsey County, Ohio. There are forests that whisper in the wind, and then there are woods that breathe like they are alive, that move when you are not looking, that seem to hold a memory of everything that ever stepped beneath their branches. Salt Fork State Park. Woods is one of those places, quiet by day, but unnervingly alive by night. A place where silence has weight, where the trees lean too close, and the shadows seem to have their own pulse. The locals call it beautiful, but they also call it cursed, and anyone who has wandered too deep into its darkness will tell you beauty and horror live side by side here. The woods are vast, stretching across thousands of acres, thick with oak, pine, and ash, and somewhere deep within, the air feels wrong, colder than the rest of the park, even in summer. The stories go back generations, tales told in low voices around campfires, about strange lights that appear between the trees, about voices that call your name from nowhere, about creatures that stalk silently just beyond the edge of your vision. The most famous legend here is about the Salt Fork Monster, a towering figure said to roam the forest, half man and half beast, covered in hair, eyes glowing red. It is said to watch campers from the shadows, to mimic voices, to lure the curious off the trail with soft laughter, or the sound of footsteps that always stay a few feet behind. Hikers who have gone missing in these woods were often last seen near the old trails that lead toward the lake. Those who returned spoke of strange things, of finding themselves in places that should not exist, of paths that looped endlessly back to the same clearing. No matter which direction they walked, one man said he saw lanterns glowing in the distance, old-fashioned, swaying as if held by invisible hands. When he approached, the light went out, and he heard whispering, hundreds of voices overlapping, saying things he could not understand. When he turned to run, the forest had changed, the path gone, replaced by thick brush and darkness that swallowed every sound he made. There is also the story of the ghost woman by the lake, a pale figure dressed in white who appears when the mist rolls across the water. They say she drowned long ago, but never found peace. She walks the shoreline calling for her child, her voice soft and desperate. If you answer her, she turns toward you with black, hollow eyes and vanishes into the mist, leaving behind the sound of water dripping. Even when the ground is dry, campers have claimed to see her reflection in the lake before she appears, standing behind them, closer than she should be. Others have seen handprints on their tents in the morning, damp and cold. There is a small cabin deep in the forest, or at least there used to be, built in the early 1900s. It belonged to a trapper who lived alone. People say he vanished one winter without a trace, leaving his tools on the table and a pot still boiling on the fire. Years later, hikers discovered the cabin again, though it was not marked on any map. Inside it was warm, as if someone had just left, but the dust was thick, and the walls were carved with strange symbols. No one knows what they mean, but those who entered say they heard someone breathing just behind them, slow, steady, waiting. When they turned around, no one was there, yet the door had closed on its own, and the air had gone still, too still. Some visitors talk about laughter echoing through the woods at night, children's laughter, distant but clear. Others say they have heard footsteps circling their campsite, but when they shine a light, nothing moves. Even the animals avoid this place after dark. No birds sing, no crickets chirp, not even the wind stirs. It is as if the forest itself is holding its breath, listening, waiting. The bravest ones who have tried to explore the woods after midnight claim to see shapes between the trees, tall, thin figures that seem to glide rather than walk, watching but never approaching, until you look away, and then they are closer. A park ranger once confessed that he does not go near the eastern side of the woods alone. He said his flashlight once flickered as he patrolled the path, and for a moment he saw someone crouched on the trail ahead. The figure looked human but moved wrong, too fast, too jerky. When he called out, it lifted its head, and he realized it had no face, just a smooth expanse of skin where eyes and mouth should be. He ran, but the sound of its footsteps followed him all the way back to his truck, even though the path was empty. There are also tales of the woods swallowing sound, people shouting for help and hearing their own voices echo back from the wrong direction, or not hearing them at all. One woman who camped alone said she woke up to see her campfire burning brighter than before, and figures standing around it, watching her silently. She said they did not move, did not blink. She closed her eyes and prayed, and when she opened them, the fire was out, and she was alone in total darkness. But the smell of smoke and something rotten lingered in the air. Many believe Salt Fork Woods is built on old burial grounds, and some even claim the water of the lake itself carries the memories of those buried beneath it. The whispers at night are said to come from the drowned, from those lost in storms or pulled under by something unseen. When you stand by the lake in the moonlight, the surface looks like glass, and if you stare too long, your reflection begins to move on its own, tilting its head, smiling faintly, as if it knows something you do not. People say that is the forest's way of marking you. Once it recognizes you, it never forgets. There is something ancient in these woods, something that feeds on fear, something that enjoys being remembered. Every sound, every flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, every cold breath on your neck when you know you are alone. It is part of the forest. It is the forest, and it does not want you to leave. It wants you to listen, to stay, to forget who you are, until all that remains is the echo of your footsteps fading into the trees, lost forever among the whispers of Salt Fork State Park woods. Number 9. Nelson Kennedy Ledges Forest, Garrettsville, Ohio. There are forests that breathe, and there are forests that remember. Nelson Kennedy Ledges Forest is one that does both. It is a place where the air feels heavy, where the rocks seem to whisper secrets of things long buried, where every step you take feels watched. The forest is known for its strange rock formations and deep crevices, but it is also known for something else, something darker. Stories of spirits that walk among the cliffs, of voices that echo through the stone at night, and of people who enter the woods and come back changed or never come back at all. Long before the forest became a park, this land was a sacred ground for the native people. They believed that the spirits of their ancestors lived within the rocks, guiding the lost and punishing those who disturbed the peace. They told stories of a shadow that moved without light, a guardian spirit that would appear when someone entered the woods with evil in their heart. Today, hikers still speak of that shadow. They say it follows from a distance, silent, dark, never stepping into the sun. When you look back, it hides. But if you stare long enough, you can feel it staring back, patient, waiting. At night, the forest changes. The sounds grow still, and the cliffs seem to close in. The air feels colder near the ledges, and some visitors swear they hear footsteps above them, on the rocks where no one can stand. Others hear laughter, echoing through the ravines, soft and childlike. But when they call out, the laughter turns into crying, and the crying fades into the wind. One couple who camped near the Devil's Icebox, a narrow crack between two cliffs, said they woke up to find their tent shaking as if something crawled around it. When they looked outside, there was nothing, only deep footprints leading toward the darkness. The Devil's Icebox itself is one of the most feared spots in the entire forest, a narrow, cold passage that never warms, even in the heat of summer. Legend says it was once used for rituals, a place where sacrifices were made to keep the spirits of the ledges calm. Some say that when you enter, you can hear chanting from deep below the earth. Others say the rocks hum softly, like a heartbeat. There are reports of people feeling hands push them gently as they walk, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to guide them deeper. One man said he saw a figure standing at the end of the passage, white and glowing, but when he blinked, it was gone, replaced by only the cold air and his echoing breath. There is also the story of the lost boy. They say a young child vanished here in the early 1900s while exploring with his family. Searchers found his footprints near the cliffs but never found him. Years later, people began to report seeing a small figure standing near the edges of the rocks, waving for help. When hikers approached, he disappeared, and moments later the sound of splashing came from below, as if someone had fallen into the unseen water beneath the ledges. Some believe his spirit still lingers, trapped between the stones, forever calling for his parents who never came. Stranger still are the reports of time slipping in the forest, hikers who enter in daylight and come out to find the sun gone, their watches frozen, their phones dead. One woman said she entered at noon and walked for what felt like an hour, but when she reached her car, it was midnight. Another said she saw lights flickering among the trees, like torches from another time, and shadows of men in old clothes moving in silence, their faces pale and their steps leaving no sound. The forest, she said, was alive, but not in any way she could understand. There are also whispers about an old cult that used the forest in the 1960s. They performed rituals near the cliffs, drawing strange symbols with ash and blood. People have found remnants of those markings even today, carved deep into the stone where no human hand should reach. Hikers who touch those carvings say they feel a vibration, like the stone is breathing. One man fainted after touching it and woke up hours later on the other side of the trail, unable to remember how he got there, his shoes soaked and covered in black mud, though there was no rain that day. Locals tell you not to stay after dark. They say the forest shifts when the sun falls. Paths twist into places that do not exist by day. The cliffs seem taller, the air feels thicker, and the lights you see in the distance are not lanterns, but eyes, glowing faintly, watching from the darkness. Some campers have woken to find their campfire burning brighter than before, though no one added wood, and a faint figure sitting near it, staring into the flames. When they spoke, the figure turned its head slowly and vanished into smoke, leaving only a whisper that sounded like a sigh. A park ranger once said he found a hiker wandering near the cliffs in the early morning, barefoot, clothes torn, muttering about voices in the stone. When asked what happened, the man said he heard someone calling his name from inside the rock itself, a voice that sounded like his mother, who had been dead for years. He followed the sound until he realized it was leading him toward the edge. He tried to stop, but could not move. Something was pulling him. The ranger said the man's eyes were wide, unfocused, as if he had seen something that did not belong in this world. The deeper you go into Nelson Kennedy Ledge's forest, the stranger it becomes. The trees grow closer together. The light fades even during the day, and you can feel something beneath your feet, something ancient, restless, watching. People who visit often say the forest feels alive, not in the way of growing things, but in the way of something that waits, something that remembers. Those who listen closely claim to hear breathing from within the stone itself, slow and steady, like the earth drawing in air. And if you stay long enough, it begins to match your own heartbeat until you cannot tell which one is yours anymore. The forest holds many secrets, and it does not give them up easily, whether it is the echoes of lost souls, the shadow that walks among the ledges, or the whispers that rise from beneath the ground. Nelson Kennedy Ledges Forest remains one of the most haunted and mysterious places in Ohio, a place where time folds, where voices call from the dark, and where those who enter are never quite the same when they leave, because some part of them, some small silent part, always stays behind, trapped among the stones, forever listening to the whispers of the ledges. Number 10. Great Seal State Park Forest, Chillicothe, Ohio. There are forests that hum with life, and then there are forests that hum with memories. The Great Seal State Park Forest in Chillicothe, Ohio, is one of those rare places where every gust of wind feels like a whisper from the past, where every tree stands as a silent witness to something it will never tell. The land here is old, older than the state itself, filled with history, sorrow, and legends that cling to the soil like mist. People come for the beauty, but they leave speaking softly, because in these woods, silence feels like respect, and noise feels like a mistake. The name Great Seal comes from the emblem of Ohio, inspired by these very hills, rolling and endless, but long before it became a park. This land belonged to the Shawnee people, who believed that the hills were sacred. They said that spirits lived within the ridges, protectors and watchers who guarded the balance between the living and the dead. They performed ceremonies at dawn, offering smoke to the sun, to thank the spirits for keeping the boundary between worlds intact. And though time has moved forward, there are nights when the smoke still seems to rise, even when no fire burns. Visitors often report strange occurrences in the early morning, when the fog drifts low through the valleys. Hikers have seen figures walking across the misty ridges, dressed in clothes that do not belong to this century. Some carry lanterns, others move without sound. One man said he saw a woman in white standing near a tree, her hands clasped, her head bowed. He thought she was a statue until she turned and vanished into the fog. Another hiker swore he followed the sound of drums deep into the forest, but when he reached the clearing, there was only silence, heavy and absolute, as if the forest itself had stopped breathing. The park is also said to be haunted by soldiers, ghosts from forgotten battles. This land once saw the march of troops during the Civil War, men who fought and fell in the hills, now covered by the forest's calm green. At night, rangers have heard the faint sound of boots on gravel, the rhythmic beat of marching feet echoing through the dark. One even claimed he heard the metallic ring of a saber, faint and distant. When he followed the sound, it stopped. But when he turned to leave, a cold breath brushed his ear, and a voice whispered, "Fall in." Some say the forest changes after sundown, that the air becomes thicker, that the trees seem closer. There are reports of strange lights floating between the trees, blue and white orbs that flicker like lanterns, following visitors and disappearing when approached. A couple camping near Sugarloaf Mountain said they saw one of those lights move toward them, slow at first, then faster, until it hovered over their tent, pulsing like a heartbeat. They left before dawn, swearing never to return. Another camper said he woke to the sound of singing, soft and low, like a lullaby. But when he looked outside, he saw no one, only a shadow standing among the trees, swaying as if to music only it could hear. There are also whispers about the caves hidden in the forest, dark cracks in the hillside that lead into the unknown. People say strange sounds come from them, whispers, moans, the rustle of footsteps moving deeper inside. One explorer claimed he went into one of the caves and found carvings on the wall, circles, arrows, and strange symbols. When he turned to leave, he saw a figure at the entrance, tall and still, blocking the light. He called out, thinking it was a ranger, but the figure did not move. When he blinked, it was gone, and the cave had gone cold enough for his breath to turn to mist. The park rangers know the stories. They hear them all the time. One ranger said that sometimes, in the deep hours of the night, he hears laughter from the empty picnic area, children's voices, high and clear, followed by the sound of running feet. But when he shines his flashlight, there is no one there. Only the swing set, moving back and forth in the wind that does not blow. He said the laughter echoes down the trail until it fades into a sob, and then silence, as if the forest itself swallowed the sound. Another strange tale tells of the old road that cuts through the edge of the forest. Drivers passing late at night have seen a figure standing by the road, wearing an old military coat, holding a lantern. Some stop to ask if he needs help, but he never answers. He simply points toward the woods, his face pale and empty, and when the headlights flicker, he disappears, leaving behind only the faint smell of smoke and wet earth. People who continue driving say their radios crackle with static, and sometimes, through the noise, a voice whispers their name. Great Seal State Park Forest is a place of beauty, but beauty can hide many things. Beneath the leaves and the laughter of daytime hikers lies something older, something that watches and remembers. The spirits of the past still walk here, bound by the hills that once held their ceremonies, their battles, their deaths, and their dreams. They do not seek harm, but they do not forget. And sometimes they remind the living that history never really dies. It just sleeps beneath the soil, waiting for someone to walk by and wake it. When you visit Great Seal, take only memories and leave with respect, because the forest is more than trees and trails. It is a doorway, a bridge between the world of the living and the quiet world of those who came before. And if you listen closely, you may hear them, whispering through the wind, asking not to be forgotten, reminding you that the forest never truly sleeps. It simply waits for night to fall. The night has fallen now. The moon sits high above the trees, and the forest has grown quiet again, as if listening, as if waiting. You have walked with me through shadows and whispers, through tales of ghosts and echoes of the past, through paths where footsteps fade but never end. You have heard of spirits that wander under the cover of mist, of voices that rise with the wind, of laughter that turns to cries when no one is near, and of the silence that lives between the trees, heavy and knowing, soft and cold. In Ohio, the forests breathe with stories older than the towns that surround them. Every leaf that falls carries a whisper. Every stone remembers a name, and every gust of air moves with a soul that refuses to fade. Maybe it is the land, ancient and soaked with memory. Maybe it is the sorrow of those who never left. Or maybe it is something deeper, something that binds all who enter to the pulse of the earth beneath their feet. Something that watches, unseen, unblinking, eternal. So as you listen now, in the dark, think of what lies beyond the light. Think of the trails that twist through the woods when no one is there, of the faces that flicker between the trees, and of the feeling that someone or something walks beside you, though the path looks empty. Think of the cold that lingers a little too long, the echo of a voice that sounds almost familiar, the way the wind calls your name and then fades before you can answer. Maybe it is your imagination, or maybe the forest knows you now. Maybe it has remembered you. If you ever walk into these haunted woods, walk softly, breathe slowly, and never mock what you do not understand. For the trees have seen too much. The soil has drunk too deeply, and the dead do not take kindly to laughter. They listen, they wait, and sometimes, when the night is still enough, they follow. You may not see them, but you will feel them. That sudden chill on your neck, that whisper that dies before it reaches your ear, that heavy silence that feels like breath against your skin. That is how they greet you. That is how they say, "Welcome back." And now, before you go, if these stories made your heart race, if they made you look over your shoulder or listen for footsteps when there should be none, then do not leave without showing it. Like this video, share it with those who dare to wander in the dark, and most importantly, subscribe. For there are more stories waiting, more voices calling from forgotten places, and more shadows that will soon come alive. Every week we return to the places the light has left behind, and you do not want to face the darkness alone, do you? So stay with us. Join this circle of the curious and the brave, where the unseen becomes heard and the dead tell their tales again. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let others step into the dark with you. Let them hear what you have heard tonight, and together we will keep the stories alive. For as long as we speak of them, the ghosts will never fade. They will walk beside us through every story, through every night, until the next haunting begins.